As we go over producing, we're going to have these three key concepts. I'm going to define what is producing. It is not the same as it is in film. Who's responsible for what, and the four kinds of theater groups that most commonly produced theater. The producer in theater is the person who oversees all the financial stuff. Sometimes in film and television, the producer takes on artistic challenges. They will function as maybe the second unit director. They'll be part of the artistic team making choices, etc. You will often in television see one of the more well-known actors functioning as an executive producer, making, again, artistic choices. But in the theater, they're the money people. They're usually in charge of fundraising, marketing, the box office. They're not a part of the creative team. The artistic director is that person who often is choosing the shows, hiring the artists. They are on balance to the producer. They run the theater. Sometimes you will have a board of directors, an artistic board of directors who make choices as far as which plays are being produced, etc. Because in some theaters, they're choosing not just one show that they're going to try to make a success, but they're doing a season, several shows throughout the year. Comparative factors between producing organizations. I'm going to talk about four places where we commonly see theater produced the most. Professional theater, or what we call commercial theater. Commercial theater, regional theater, which is also a kind of professional theater, community theater, and educational theater. As I talk about these four kinds of theater, I want to really focus on where's the money coming from, who's in control, is it considered professional or amateur theater. Here's a chart that is the hierarchy of jobs in the theater. Enlarge it, look at it. It just gives you an idea of where the producer falls, artistic director, etc. And it gives you more of an idea of who answers to who within the technical side of theater especially. I'm not going to test you on all of these titles of all of these people and specifically what they do, so don't fret over this, but it's good information. Most people think of commercial theater as being the most professional kind of theater because it's Broadway theater, New York theater, where we have the most commercial theaters, for-profit theaters in the U.S. And again, commercial theaters for profit. They get money from investors. Those investors want to make money. This is not theater that survives by patrons' donated money. The producer and director have a lot of control in this kind of theater because they're choosing a specific play that they are putting their money into, hoping that when it opens on Broadway, it's a huge hit and does a year or two of performances. And again, they're trying to make a lot of money. In commercial theater, they are looking to stack the deck in their favor. They don't take a whole lot of chances. They hire actors who are part of Actors Equity Association, a union. They hire theater technicians, designers, directors, all people who belong to unions because that is a sign of a certain level of work. You have to prove yourself to get into the union, so they are really looking at that as like a seal of approval kind of thing. Actors Equity is the largest of all the theater unions. Once you belong to Actors Equity, you can no longer perform in non-union theaters. You have to get special dispensation. Your hope with commercial theater, of course, is, like I said, to have a long run. You're looking for a sure thing. This is New York Broadway theater, although there is commercial theater in Chicago, LA, a few other large cities throughout the United States have this kind of theater. You will also notice that commercial theater, once they have a hit show, they will often take it on tour. There are touring houses, theaters across the United States, where they do not create their own theater. They bring in these touring professional shows. We're really lucky because we have Angelina Arts Alliance on our campus, and they do that. They do music, dance, children's theater, and you will see some of the other professional plays and musicals that they bring in here. So that's what commercial theater is about. It's about, again, making money and keeping that show alive. Regional theater is probably my favorite kind of theater. It's non-profit or not-for-profit. You still have to pay to see the shows, etc., but the money doesn't go to other producers. This is theater that's trying to make money to keep the doors open. Regional theaters are theaters across the United States. Every major city has one or two of these regional theaters. Our closest regional theater is the Alley in Houston. This theater, the people in control, that's your artistic director or board of directors. Now, again, unlike commercial theater, they're choosing a season of plays, a season that they think is good for their community. Sometimes one thing I really like about them is that sometimes they mix in new plays. They mix in experimental theater. Regional theater is where our new playwrights have the opportunity to test out their plays, kind of get a name for themselves. When it comes to the artists involved, they're semi-professional in that they use a mix of professionals, union professionals, yet there are still jobs at that theater acting through technical theater where you can be an amateur. And just because you are an amateur in the theater does not mean you have less experience than the professionals. You just have another occupation as well as what you do for the theater. These are theaters that are often trying to mix education as part of their focus because it makes them eligible for more grant money. These are theaters that exist on donations, corporate sponsors. These are the kinds of places that big companies, Ford Foundation gives to regional theater, those kinds of things. Because they're not trying to appeal to the mass audience of commercial theater, they have more artistic freedom. Again, this is where a lot of new playwrights have the opportunity to stage their plays. And again, it is widespread. I think there's more good theater, great theater, happening in regional theater than almost anything that you will see on Broadway. Community theater is like Nacogdoches has Lamplight, that's their community theater. Here in Lufkin we have the Angelina Community Theater, which is now has a home at the VHW. This is, I think, some of the most exciting theater that you see because you usually know someone who's in the play. It's for profit because they are so small that they do not get educational grant money, big corporation money. They survive on their box office, which is really important to them. All that money goes right into the next play. Sometimes you'll have donations, you'll have local businesses, local industry that gives to these theaters. It's also great because a lot of the people involved have a love for theater. They have theater experience. Maybe it's something they've been doing most of their lives, but they now work and live in this area, so they are involved with community theater. Community theater usually has an artistic director, a board of directors. They choose a season, like regional theater. It's a fun local activity. Everyone involved is a volunteer. There's no one there making any money. They are doing theater purely for their community and for the love of the art form. The final theater that I want to talk about is university theater. Obviously, this is not-for-profit theater. Your faculty functions as artistic director, board of directors. It is, at most universities, a mix of people who used to be professionals that have now moved in to education, and then amateurs, because you have your students. Sometimes there's a gray area in labeling this professional or non-professional because of those teachers who used to work professionally who have now moved into education. There's a better chance of artistic freedom because as faculty, it is, and as for myself as a teacher, I want my students to have the opportunity to do a lot of different kinds of theater because that's what they will be doing in the reality of the theater world. I'd like to think we have a little more artistic freedom. We are less box office driven. You know, it's great because here at Angelina College, you guys don't pay. No one pays to come and see a play here. It's part of what the school is giving back to their community. I want to talk too here because a lot of smaller community theaters in the summer, especially university theaters also in the summer, have a repertory season. A repertory season is a season where you rehearse, build, put together all aspects of a play, and then you open one, perform it, strike that, take it down, open the next one, strike that, take it down, open maybe a third, fourth, fifth, and then you start over. And maybe you mix it up. You do the first play followed by the third play. You perform them on a rotating sequence for a longer point of time because that gives the local audience, and maybe if it's in the summer, a tourist audience, the opportunity to see lots of different plays in a shorter amount of time. You can see 3 different shows maybe in 3 different weekends rather than having to wait 4 to 5 weeks between them as you have with a regular season. Also, what's really fun with a repertory season is that everybody works on all the shows. So you might see an actor who plays Hamlet one night, and then he's a guard in the next play, and then maybe he's the props guy for Romeo and Juliet. I'm using Shakespeare because our best local, well, sort of local, repertory season is the Kilgore Shakespeare Festival. If you ever get the opportunity to go and see a couple of plays there, really good. They use their students, but they also bring in New York actors and actors from regional theaters, and it is a really great way to see a lot of good quality Shakespeare.